Number 7, public hearing. There is none this evening. Move on to number 8, general business. 8A, consideration of receiving a report from Mike Bubani of David Drown Associates regarding a financing plan for a cooperative tax abatement to assist in the financing of the Guardian Inn Motel project in the Himley Business Park. Bubani has met with the Fillmore County EDA and the Rushford EDA, both of which have expressed interest in moving forward on the project. It is anticipated this style of financing package will have the same result for the developer and the city as the earlier proposed TIF district plan. See attached letter of explanation, proposed development agreement, proposed timeline, and 2 resolutions regarding council action is listed below. Mr. Bubani, care to go forward?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you again tonight. I expect you're probably getting sick of me, but I wouldn't blame you a moment. As you recall, we've been dealing with Mr. Suri and hoping to get a motel developed in the Himley Business Park. And one of the issues, in fact probably one of the primary issues, was the cost of the land. The value inherent in the land itself, as well as the special assessments pending for the street and utilities out front. And the original plan, among other things, was to establish a tax increment financing district and use those dollars to write down the cost of that land to the tune of $87,000 being the purchase price. Council approved holding a hearing, moving forward, and then as we went through the process of establishing the TIF district, we find out that the property in question at one point had been enrolled in a Green Acres tax deferral program. And it was enrolled in that program in the previous 5 years. Why is that important? The TIF Act specifically states that any land that had been enrolled in the Green Acres program cannot have a TIF district established on its borders for a period of 5 years. There are some exceptions, but they don't apply here. I did try to work with the Department of Revenue and the State Auditor's Office because the acres in question, while indeed the parcel had been enrolled in Green Acres, the actual benefit of that program only applied to a very small piece of it, and not the piece where the motel would be. But they were quite firm that it didn't matter to them. Green Acres it is, and therefore that 5-year rule would come into play. And as you know, it's our hope that the motel project would be constructed this year. So that left us looking for an alternative. Fortunately, Fillmore County has a policy whereby tax abatement can be used in a cooperative venture with the city. And I believe we can get to the same place, but just using a different tool. In this situation, the county would calculate and levy for the new taxes, 75% of the new taxes generated by the motel. They would annually shuffle those dollars to you, and then you would abate your share of the taxes for a much longer period of time, the 19 years we talked about previously. And those two combined would allow us to collect the same present value benefit as a TIF district. And I believe in your packets there were some spreadsheets for you to look at showing you that. I have met with the Fillmore County EDA, as well as the city's EDA, as well as the subcommittee. All have expressed interest in continuing to pursue the project. The good news is the cost of setting up the cooperative abatement is cheaper than setting up the TIF district. There's less reporting requirements. That'll make Kathy happy. And also the fact that I've done a lot of work establishing a TIF district that I'm not going to bill you for. So what that means is should something else come along this year that requires a TIF district, and we know there's a couple of possibilities for that, you'll get away with a pretty cheap bill in terms of hourly time. So tomorrow, the schedule, I think, is also in your packet. My plan would be tomorrow to attend the Fillmore County Board and present this project to them and ask them to call for a public hearing as well. Tonight, after questions and so forth, I'm going to ask you to consider passing a couple of resolutions calling for public hearings, which are very similar to the resolutions you passed before, except for now it will be for a tax abatement hearing as opposed to a TIF hearing, as well as a business subsidy hearing. scheduled still for April 25th, which was the same night we identified before. The county would hold its hearing sometime in May if they agree to move forward. The downside to this process is that the county has the ability to decline cooperate. And if that happens, then we've got to go back to the blackboard. Okay. So why don't I stop there and take questions, see if I can be more clear in something I've presented already, or if there's something I've missed.
The business subsidy agreement in this packet, who wrote that?
Those are basic terms I put together.
These are from you?
Yeah.
Okay. In your letter, the cover letter, you say that before such assistance can be approved, the developer needs to submit quite a bit of information and other material. This includes, but may not be limited to, a source and use report, projected cash flows, and so. These will need to be submitted prior to the council taking any action.
Correct.
Any action for what?
Before approval of the abatement. The developer has submitted several $1,000s to the city to cover the cost of going through the process. So there's, the risk there is averted on the city's behalf. But come the abatement hearing, if we haven't had these documents provided, then I expect the council will simply take no action that night of the hearing. And the county board would likely do the same. So, and yes, we've asked for a cash flow. He's been asked by his financing institution, as you know, to redo the cash flow based on a higher vacancy rate. We're asking for that. The sources and uses, you know, to build the but-for need for the use of the public assistance in the first place, and those sorts of things. And I think Joyce Iverson has given him an application packet requesting those same materials.
We met last Thursday and went over that checklist.
You and Mr. Suri.
Yes.